Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to go over L.E. Modesitt Jr.'s novel Legacies, which is the first book of the Corean Chronicles. But before we get into that, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when new videos come on out. Leave a comment down below. I love to hear from you guys, and I always respond back. And spread the word. It helps me out, and I appreciate it. So, going into this one, the first book of the Corean Chronicles, it's a bit different from the spell song cycle, even though I think there's a link between chorus. Somehow chorus leads into the world that becomes the spell song cycle. I could be wrong, but I sort of kind of put those two together. But the story, it follows a young man, Legacies, and it's basically a growing of age tale, as it seems like a lot of Modesitt Jr.'s works are. It starts off as a baby, and then as a 5-year-old or 4 or 5-year-old, where he basically heals a lamb, and the lamb is able to live, and then the lamb is like always close to him, and he's able to heal his grandma and give her more time on in the land. And so they come to realize that he has this talent, is what they call it. They don't call it magic, they call it talent. And as a herder, you do not let anybody else know that you have that talent, because they will use you to every end possible. So as the story is going on, and he's getting older, he meets a girl, Wendra, who he falls in love with, and she falls in love with him. And it's just she lives in the town and he lives off in the stead, so they don't see each other very often. But when they do, they try to make the most of it. You know, talking and cuddling and kissing, but that's it. You know, he keeps her dignity in place, even though it becomes tough in one area. And as he's growing older, he reaches the age where he has to join the militia. He could be bought out. His contract, or his terms, his conscription could be bought out, but it would cost much more than his grandfather Royalt or his mother Lucinda could even begin to afford. And even though Royalt and Lucinda try to make it seem like, yeah, we can do this, we can make it happen, and you'll still be here, Legacies says, no, you can't. The stead will be gone. You just can't do it that way. You can't buy out my conscription. I will come back. I promise you I will be back. So as he gets into the military, his grandfather, basically, before he even goes in, his grandfather is training him left and right, because he used to be a captain in the militia. So he's training him on, you know, combat with a knife, combat with a saber, combat with no weapons. And he gets to the point where, as he's getting better, he finds that he's not losing as badly. You know, he's not as tired now. But his grandfather, being older, says, you know, hey, I'm an old man, gotta take it easy on me, but still. So going into the military, the militia, they do their tests, and there is a guy that for some reason he just likes to pick on Legacies, and says, because he's a herder, oh, I bet you love animals, and I bet you love animals in every way, implying, you know, other things. And what they don't understand is, and this comes in after, but they do their training, and Lucius is so strong in in shooting because they use rifles, as you can see on the cover. That's one of the differences between this and Spell Song Cycle, is that there's rifles that they use from long distance and then sabers close in. But between between being a marksman and somebody with the saber, he's basically first grade, top notch, first star. And yet these two characters, they don't get it, and they still try to pick on him, and they try to like accost him during lunch, and Lucius basically beats him down to the ground, and the under captain comes back and he's like, you guys should learn your lesson. He could have killed you, and he didn't. So, from now on, you guys are going to this company, and I don't want you talking to him. I don't want you talking to anybody in this company anymore. If I find out, things are going to get worse. So that gets taken care of, and those guys don't end up surviving their first battles. Lucius is put into like a scouting unit, and with his talent, he can see colors. He can make out like sanders, which are like these like almost sandmen, I guess, that come out of the ground. And if you shoot them, it basically just takes like little pocks off of them, and it usually takes more than a few people to kill a sander, but Lucius is able to do it by himself. There's also sand wolves. So he can sense when those things are around and kind of how far off they are. That's part of the talent. He also can tell when there are people around, and by their color, the color that is around them, he knows who are what troops, whether it's the Matra's troops or the troops coming from La Necrona. So he becomes very valuable in this, and he earns the respect of the militia very quickly, as he does. I mean, he basically does everything to the fullest letter. He follows every order. He follows everything down to a T. He's basically like a yes sir boy. And during one battle, there's where they're fighting the Matrites troops, who are from Madria, and they have this magical machine that can shoot crystal bolts, and somehow Lucius is able to use his talent to basically warm this thing up, and not just warm it up, but to the point to where it basically explodes, and he gets hit by a chunk of the falling debris and gets knocked unconscious. And when he wakes up, he becomes a prisoner of Madria, and he's got a collar around his neck. Now, interesting note here, in Madria, the women are in charge, and none of them really wear collars. There are a few, but not all. All men wear collars. If you go back and you watch the videos to the Spell Song Cycle, the Matra in their society, they chained the women. And women who could spell song and sing, they would cut out their tongues. So it's a little bit of a contrast here. That here the women are in control and the men are the ones that are in collars. So with that, it becomes very hard to use your talent. It's almost impossible. And somehow he's able to at least get a sense of some of it. He's able to use some of it. And he gets put into their military. And he knows he can never be a full squad leader, because he's not from Madria. He's a captive. And the only thing that they would say that's keeping him from being able to leave and rebel is that collar. The torque, they call it. And the reasoning behind the torque from the Matrite's perspective is that before she became into power, you had city and city fighting each other, and people were dying left and right, and people were trying to claim more power here, there, and everywhere. And once they threw the torques on the males, boom, you had order all across the land. So that was the justification behind the torques, behind the collars. Whether you agree with it or not, you can put it down below. Whether anybody should wear collars that can restrict them and take away their free will, leave down below. But there are other creatures called swords, and they look like angels in a sense. There's not much known about them. They don't speak. They seem to follow, like, Lucius sees them mainly after people die. Whether it's in a battle or something, is when he sees them. But he does come across a wood sprite who does actually speak to him in his mind. And she helps loosen his torque. So it looks like he still has it on, but it's no longer restricting his vision. And the sprite is basically tells him, you have something that you need to do, and you don't have much time to do it. So get ready, because you have to do this. Now, he spends 2 years in the service of the Matrite army. And doing this, he's basically become this like legend for things that he can do. I mean, he can basically shoot using his talent. He can guide the bullet and shoot out of 10 shots, hit 7 guys. He knows where the opposing army is, where they're lying, and that gives him such a huge advantage. And when like a senior officer goes down, the pecking order in the Matrite army is to be the next senior officer becomes in charge. Well, Lucius kind of takes charge of his own group, and they do their thing, and they're able to save the battle and have very few losses. And it's weird because the people in the under-captains, who are mainly women, they seem to question this all the time. Like, how did that happen? And it's almost like he's almost being questioned for being good, for achieving what you would want to achieve during a battle. Even so much to the point where he gets sent on reassignment. They remove him from the company he's in. One, you can only assume because he's having too much success. He's young, he looks young, and he can't be a full squad leader because, again, he's a captive. So he gets sent to this other city, and he is to become, he thinks, is a messenger. But the captain that's at that post is gone. She's out for a while, and the under captain doesn't really know what to do with him. So she basically sends him out to help with the training of the new trainees, the new captives. And he remembers the guy that trained him, and he was fair to him. And Lucius says, he tells himself, he was fair to me. I can't hate him. And and he even remembers who Lucius is. And what Lucius is doing is as he's doing this, he's been going to the library in the big city. Now he's going into the library in this small city, and he's looking at maps, and he's learning the layouts, especially of the Matrite of her residence, you could say, because he knows that whatever is going on with these Torques is going on there, and he knows he probably can't destroy the Matrite. That's probably not going to be possible. But he can try to take out the Torques. Whatever is doing that, he can sense this pinkish purple evil coming from her residence, and he knows that's what I have to do. And his plan is basically to he makes himself dresses himself up as a messenger, and he's taking a couple of messages from the captain, and it's cool because he's got this ability to screen himself where he can be invisible unless somebody with talent is around, then they can spot him. But he ends up getting out of the post, and he takes these letters, and he basically goes to the residence of the Matrite. And from there, he is able to screen himself again and push some suggestions to the guards so they forget that he's even there. And he starts finding his way around to where all this evil's coming from. And he ends up in a small room that is basically, it has a big crystal hovering. And attached to it is all the life webbing of the people who are wearing the Torques. So he figures, I have to destroy the crystal. That will make the Torques useless. And as he's doing that, the Matrite basically gets the notion, there's somebody here, and they're in the crystal. We gotta go now, like super fast. And she tells the soldiers that are with her, don't shoot, because if you shoot at the crystal, the bullets are just going to ricochet off and come back at you. So then it cuts back to Aloysius, and he tries with his saber to hit it, and basically the saber can't quite hit it, and then the recoil is so bad that he has a hard time holding on to it, and it hurts his arm. So he knows he can't do it with that. So he starts to push out darkness toward the crystal. Darkness and green, which is kind of, I guess, from the wood sprite, or maybe the Sorer, if you want to call the wood spirit a Sorer in it. I'm not sure if she was. But he keeps pushing this darkness, and then the green. And as the Matrite and her soldiers get there, she's like, there he is, shoot him. And he basically takes a couple of shots, but he's got this like underclothing that has night ram wool, which is what they have at their stead. Black wool, which is much tougher, and it saved him in a lot of battles before. Hits that would have like cut people through, it just barely like leaves a bruise on him. So with that, he just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing, and then next thing you know, he's unconscious. And when he wakes up, the crystal's gone. His Torque is broken. It's basically in half, split. And he sees the bodies of the troops, the troopers of the Matrite, one of her under captains who went with her, and the Matrite herself. Well, he doesn't find the body of the Matrite. He sees he sees her clothing laid out as if she had worn it and just kind of dissipated. So now he has to get out, and he's able to do that basically the same way he got in, screening himself, going through. He figures everybody's going to be more. They're not going to come after me. They're going to be more concerned with what happened up, and this is below ground, so that all this is taking place. Chances are, they're probably not going to know what has happened yet. And it's going to take a little while before anybody really figures it out what happened. So he goes back to his post, and he basically knocks out the captains so he can tie them up, and then he goes to the new trainees, and he's like, "Hey, I'm from Ironhelm. I want to go home. I know two of you are from there, and anybody else that wants to go or go home where it may not be there, but anybody that wants to go home, you can join me. We're breaking out. The collars are no good anymore. They don't work." So now he has his own army, his own squads, at least. It's not huge, and they're not trained. But they take out a couple of Matrite forces along the way. And there's another group that joins them because of what he showed there, that what he was able to do. So they're riding back, and then they see the militia, and now he realizes now it becomes a matter of negotiating, that we want a fair deal. We don't want to be branded as traitors. We were captured. We didn't go over willingly. We were captured, and these things were put around our neck. And as he meets with a captain, they basically lay out the terms, and there you have the general and the captain. The captain's not even willing to negotiate. He just keeps saying, "You're traitors, you're traitors, you're traitors." And Aloysius finally just has enough and basically pulses at his life web and causes him to die. That's part of what the talent can do. But when you use the talent, especially in big things, and the more you use it, you get tired and you get headaches. So in this case, he doesn't really get tired because it's just the one push, but it's enough. And the general basically gives into his terms, but saying, okay, but conscription now went from 3 years to 4 years. You probably didn't hear about that. But you'll get back pay for the time that you were in the militia and the time that you served over there. Same thing with your men. And those people who have served 4 years, then they get to go home and stay home and not be still in the militia. Because it's what the council needs to do. So they look good and the militia looks good. And the thing that really is pushing Aloysius is, okay, but what about furlough? When do we get to see our families? And they're basically given a month of furlough before they have to report back. And then they'll probably get like another month, he said, within 6 months. So he gets back home. Wendra's been at the stead all along. Not sure if she still wants him, but she does. And they agree to be married before he goes back back into the militia. And that's where the book basically ends. So now going into book 2, we see where things lead Aloysius from here. Because it's basically, from what I understand of the series, it's made up of a trilogy. Three books of Aloysius. I'm assuming they're all three of him. 3 books that take place before. And then there's books that take place even before some of that. So it's kind of going backwards, in a sense, which was different from the Spellsong cycle. But overall, I gotta say, I really like this book. 587 pages. It's a long read. But it's a page-turner. I think some things could have been shrunk down, but I think what L.E. Modesitt Jr. showed by drawing this out is that Aloysius had to learn. He had to learn. Or else he would not have been able to do what he was able to do. So, yeah. I give it 5 stars. I liked it. And so far, I've liked everything that that I've read by L.E. Modesitt Jr. So I would recommend it, and I'm looking forward to book 2. So with that, I don't want to talk your ear off too much, as I have been. But yeah, 5 stars. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when new videos come on out. Leave a comment down below. I love hearing from you guys, and I always respond. And, spread the word. It helps me out. I appreciate it. And hopefully it'll help the channel grow and to reach more people. Spread out more knowledge of books, whether it's fantasy, sci-fi, philosophy, communication, classics, whatever. I'm all over the board. So that would be cool. So yeah, until next time, as always, keep YouTube literate, and God bless.